Welcome back to the Explanation Pro. Today I'll recap a war suspense film called Tunnel Rats. Spoilers incoming. The movie centers around a platoon of American soldiers who get assigned to do some search and destroy missions through the tunnel network of the enemy group called the Viet Cong, which earns the soldiers the nickname Tunnel Rats. The movie starts as an American soldier crawls through the tunnels. He sees a rat nearby but nothing else. He picks up a telephone and tells the other end that the tunnel is clear. As he puts it down and starts to crawl again, one of the Viet Cong hiding underneath stabs him with a wooden spear, killing the soldier. Meanwhile, new recruits arrive at the American military base just as two soldiers load body bags in the helicopter they came from. The new recruits are given a tour and first introduced to another soldier named Garrity. While they start to unpack, their commanding officer named Lieutenant Hollowborn arrives. He tells them to get settled as they go to their first tunnel tomorrow. After he leaves, a soldier named Miller starts to complain. The soldier beside him tells another that he's on his bunk. He tries a trade but the other soldier won't budge. Later on, Hollowborn orders the execution of a prisoner, who is a member of the Viet Cong, for killing 5 of his men. One of his men, Sergeant Heaney, tries to change his mind by stating that the Viet Cong is still a soldier. Hollowborn tells him that the Viet Cong is not in uniform and insists on the execution. The soldiers are gathered around a tree where the Viet Cong soldier is on a high branch with a rope around his neck. He is then pushed off the branch by Heaney, causing him to be hanged and break his neck. A lot of the soldiers feel disgusted as they leave. Another Viet Cong soldier hides behind the grass throughout the execution and watches it happen. One soldier named Harris confronts Hollowborn and tells him that the Viet Cong's execution is murder. Hollowborn asks him if he had a problem with the entire army or if with just Hollowborn. Harris answers the latter and this makes Hollowborn smile. Meanwhile, Heaney begins to look at what he's done and slowly cries. During lunch, 2 soldiers named Porterson and Johnson introduce themselves to one another. Miller joins them and begins to tell them about his home life, revealing that he's Jewish. He also tells them about his sick mother. The other 2 stay silent and Miller begins to sense that he's unwelcome there, so he moves to another table. After Miller leaves, Porterson and Johnson talk about how soldiers like Miller get themselves killed by talking too much. Johnson compares him to the veteran soldiers who do their duty precisely. Meanwhile, Harris and Hollowborn have a boxing match. Harris vents out his frustration and anger towards the lieutenant for being inhumane, but Hollowborn easily defeats him. He then tells Harris that his kindness and sympathy are of no use there and he'll still get killed. One soldier named Verano complains about the food because he doesn't like the taste. Heaney tells him to come closer and they start to talk about where he came from. Verano asks him if he ever felt scared there and Heaney tells him that Verano should just focus on surviving. Later on, Verano plays a card game with another soldier named Lidford. Lidford sees Harris reading the Bible and tells him to go to a verse he could quote from memory. Another soldier named Graybridge mocks them for believing in God. He gets into an argument with Lidford before walking away. Graybridge encounters Corporal Green, who he asks if Green believes in God. Graybridge eventually tells Green that he wants to be an entrepreneur after the war. Green then tells him that what matters then is their situation against the Viet Cong before asking him for help to get water. That night, Lidford teaches Verano how to smoke a cigarette. Verano coughs immediately and Johnson tells them that they shouldn't even be smoking because they're going to the tunnels the next morning. He adds that the Viet Cong would be able to smell them from afar. Verano eventually talks about his home life in Michigan and how he misses his family. He then tries to ask Lidford about his family, but Lidford gets annoyed and tells him to get off his bunk. Porterson then tells Verano that his life before coming to Vietnam doesn't matter there. The next morning, they trek through the forest to get to the tunnels while a few members of the Viet Cong scout the area. Garrity volunteers to go down first while the other soldiers cover for him on the surface. Seconds later, they hear gunshots from the tunnel. Green goes down to get Garrity and finds that he's shot in the stomach. Garrity eventually dies and Green goes back down to throw a grenade inside the tunnel to clear it. They release some gas inside and Porterson goes down wearing a mask. He finds 2 members of the Viet Cong and gets them out before going back in and disassembling an explosive trap. Johnson, who's also in the tunnels with Lidford, says that they reached a dead end and there's nothing else to find. Johnson then starts to climb out of the tunnel. where a Vietnamese woman named Mai is waiting. He sticks his head out and she stabs a spear through his neck, killing him. Porterson calls out to Johnson and Mai throws a grenade inside the tunnel. She then leaves the area and goes down another tunnel. She eventually gets back to her base and throws up. She starts to wash her hands when a child approaches her and hands her something. She takes it and the child crawls into a hole. Meanwhile, Heaney and the other soldiers find Johnson. Heaney says that they have to go back to the other soldiers at the other end even though another soldier thinks they should look for Porterson, who is shown to have survived the explosion. Mai approaches a member of the Viet Cong and gives him some food. The two of them help each other in burying a companion. Heaney returns to the other soldiers and tells them that Johnson is dead. He, along with Verano and Green, go down to the tunnels to try and look for Porterson. Harris tries to contact Hollowborn but fails. Heaney then crawls down a hole and encounters a trap filled with wooden spikes, stabbing through him and killing him. Verano starts to cry and says that he doesn't want to leave Heaney behind. Green tries to tell him that they should but he wouldn't listen. The Viet Cong arrives and shoots him dead while Green escapes. On the surface, Lidford and Harris get ambushed by other Viet Cong members. Lidford picks up a gun and tries to shoot all of them. He gets shot before they escape through a hole where the Viet Cong follows them. Green is still underground and finds a hollow spot in the tunnels. He digs it and realizes it's a grave. He screams as the corpse drops on him. Back in their base, the American soldiers are surprised by the Viet Cong members as they start to break through the camp. Harris, Lidford, and Green reunite in the tunnels. Harris tells Green that Lidford is injured and that they should leave immediately because they're being followed by the Viet Cong. He then asks Green where his other teammates are. Green doesn't say anything and Harris silently realizes that they're gone. Lidford starts panicking. They eventually encounter Mai, who kills Lidford with a knife. Harris tells Green that they should move, but Green says that he's done and staying before he lights up a cigarette. Harris then leaves him behind. Meanwhile, the battle between the Americans and the Viet Cong continues. Hollowborn, who is injured, crawls towards a telephone and tells the other side to send an airstrike to their location. Miller and Graybridge run away from the Viet Cong in the river. Graybridge gets shot and Miller pulls him back as he starts to say that he does believe in God before dying. Miller leaves him behind and shoots one of the Viet Cong before running away. A member of the Viet Cong catches up to him and they start to fight. They start to wrestle in the water before Miller overpowers the Viet Cong and drowns him. Back in their base, a scouting Viet Cong finds a soldier on the ground but still alive. He starts to stab him multiple times out of frustration before his companion stops him. They then use a flamethrower along with some explosives to set the camp on fire. Green is still alive and lies down still in the same spot. He encounters two of the Viet Cong. He shoots one of them before another wrestles with him in an attempt to kill him with a knife. The tables turn as Green manages to use the Viet Cong's own knife to stab himself. He tries to get out, using some knives stabbed at the dead Viet Cong to crawl past the corpse. Meanwhile, Porterson finds an underwater tunnel. He swims through and surfaces at an underground Viet Cong camp. They jump up and shoot him on the shoulder while Patterson manages to throw a grenade at them. He then dives back down while waiting for the explosion. He resurfaces again, pointing out his gun, and finds that the explosion killed the Viet Cong members in the room, except for one. The man tells him not to shoot before directing him to an exit tunnel. Porterson crawls through it while the Vietnamese man takes out a photo of a woman and looks at it as he dies. Green finds a wooden wall in the tunnels and starts to remove the planks using his knife. He doesn't see that one of the Viet Cong closes the tunnel behind him, trapping him there. He manages to break the planks, which were apparently keeping in water. The water slowly fills the tunnel and Green struggles before his light eventually goes out. His corpse is shown later on. Porterson continues to crawl out through the tunnels and eventually finds a way out. He goes back to camp and finds Miller, who points a gun at him out of surprise. The two of them look around at their dead companions and burning camp. Harris reaches a hole where Mai and two children are camping. Mai immediately stands in front of the children with a knife while Harris tries to plead with her that he just wants to go through. He also says that he's not a killer and asks her if she knows how to speak English, but Mai continues to yell at him in Vietnamese. He then tries to lower his weapon to show her that he's not going to hurt her or the children. Mai continues to be defensive towards Harris. The airstrike then arrives, burning the entire camp. Mai pushes the children to escape through the tunnel, but she doesn't let Harris out. Harris tries to convince her to leave so that they could all escape, but Mai continues to point the knife at him. The airstrike shakes the ground, causing the tunnels to collapse. Mai and Harris survive, but the tunnels are covered by dirt and rubble. Harris finds a shovel and the two of them start to dig a way out. They manage to find the hole, but it's filled with soil, so they keep on digging. She eventually stops to dig while Harris tries to continue on beside her, although he starts to slow down. The movie ends as Mai and Harris grow weaker before the two of them eventually pass away. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. See you in the next video.